Good morning, y'all, and welcome to the Lauren DeLaguna show in the morning. Still need a better name for that. Lauren in the morning, only name suggestion we got, but it's a good one. It is a great morning, your mom. Good morning, Roscon. It is always good to see you. It is good to see you, OTW News. Hi, Amber. Love to see you here. And E.N. Copendog, always great to see you. Hey, Teresa, lovely morning. Thank you all so much for being here. This is a show where we go through the news. Usually we start with a few curated stories, and then we jump into headlines, and y'all help me choose headlines and read stories. So Henry has already curated some awesome stories for us, so let's get started with those. The first one, I don't know if I would have made this the first story, but I think it's an interesting one. So it has to do with Katy Perry and a trademark. So Katy Perry actually lost in a trademark battle to somebody else who spells Katie, Katie. So let me go ahead and share that story right here. So Katy Perry versus Katie Perry, Perry, singer, loses trademark battle. Yikes. Okay. But then we got some other really great stories for us today. We're going to get into the Jerry Springer stuff, and we're going to go back into Montana, which we kind of covered yesterday, and all their transgender stuff. And we have DeSantis, Disney. Got great stories for you today. So let's start with Katy Perry. Always love when they have a tagline. This one is by Ian Youngs. Singer Katy Perry has lost trademark battle with Australian fashion designer called Katie Perry. Katie Taylor, who sells clothes under her birth name, Katy Perry, sued pop star, saying that her merchandise infringed on a trademark that she owned. On Friday, a judge agreed that clothing sold for Katy, K-A-T-Y, the singer, 2014 Australian tour, did breach Katie's trademark. So to keep this simple, I'm going to call Katy Perry the singer, and I'm going to call Katie, Katie, the fashion designer, just to make it easier. This is a tale of two women, two teenage dreams, and one name, Justice Bridget Marvikoff wrote in her ruling. The judge said teenage dream singer, born Catherine Hudson, used the Katy Perry name in good faith and does not owe any personal compensation to the designer. Yeah, so that's one thing with trademark. It's different than contract law, where like it doesn't really matter your intent to breach the contract or not, even if you intend. And keep in mind, I'm not an attorney, but even if you intend to breach a contract, you're usually not penalized for that. You're only your intention about whether or not you intended to breach really doesn't matter at all. You just owe however much to make the person whole in their contract. However, it's different with trademark. If you intend to infringe on somebody's trademark, like you intend to use, for instance, if I just took a pair of jeans and then, wrote True Religion on them and like use the True Religion logo in bad faith, I could be penalized for that. But Katy Perry clearly used the term Katy Perry in good faith. However, the star's company, Katy Perry, must pay damages, which will be decided next month. So apparently that wasn't in good faith, because Katy Perry, you can clearly see that comes from her name, but Katy Perry, well, that's a further stretch. The designer started, and that's a really, before we go on, trademark was one of my favorite classes in law school because you were able to argue. You were really able to get in there and have two lawyers be well versed in trademark and still come to opposite conclusions. based on how they argued the facts. So a trademark is really cool and decently subjective, somewhat subjective. There's usually like a right answer, but the singer who scored her, okay, the designer started selling her clothes using the brand name Katy Perry, i.e., in 2007, and registered a trademark in Australia the following year. The singer who scored her first hits in 2008 was ruled to have infringed on the trademark by promoting a jacket advertising her album Roar. Quote, cozy little Christmas hoodies, t-shirts, sweatpants, and scarves on social media. However, the judge rejected further claims relating to the sales in certain stores and websites in merchandise for a 2018 tour. Justice Markovic dismissed a bid by the pop star to cancel Katy Perry, the fashion designer's trademark. The designer described the outcome as a victory in the David and Goliath case. Katy Perry, the singer, is much bigger than the designer. And the size of your trademark does matter if you, at least in America, I don't know how Australian trademark works, but let's say I only use the trademark Lauren DeLaguna in Laguna Beach, then and then somebody else used Lauren DeLaguna in New York City after I did, but then they expanded throughout the nation and it eventually expanded to Laguna Beach. That's a different issue than if I started in Laguna Beach and then a different trademark company also wanted to start in Laguna Beach. Like if you expand into an area versus if you start in an area in which it's already operating. And so there's all these different rules based off where you're located, how far you would expand, when you expand, and who expands there first as to determining. But it's not really just the size of your trademark that matters. So even though she says victory in a David and Goliath case, it doesn't really help that much as to determine which trademark's larger, other than determining which one was in Australia first. Here the fashion designer says, not only have I fought for myself, but I fought for my small business in this country, many of them started by women who can find themselves up against overseas entities who have much more financial power than we do, she wrote. Nice. Okay, very cool. Let's move on. Good morning. Hey, Rebel Lauren, is it true you were going to give legal advice, legal aid to Liberty Bird? Well, I can't really give legal advice or legal aid to anyone. I don't recall saying I would help I would help anyone who needs help. I really don't like Liberty Bird, but I also told Mr. 303 if he needed, I can't give them legal advice, but I could give them basic advice of life, So I could try to help, but I can only do what I can do. I can't give legal advice. Good morning, Maddie LSM. Good morning, David Walsh, News Network. We are going over the news, David Walsh. Heading on to our second story, we just finished our Katy Perry story and the trademark. I'm actually going to drop that link. Yeah, let's drop that link in chat for y'all before we move on. Okay, moving on. We are heading to the Jerry Springer story. So sad. I saw this yesterday, right when we finished our news yesterday in the morning. Found out Jerry Springer died. Very sad. Jerry Springer, legendary talk show host, dies at 79. Let's go ahead and loop that into chat as well. All right. Jerry Springer, the legendary talk show host, broadcast journalist, and former mayor of Cincinnati, has died. He was 79 years old. The TV star died peacefully at his home in Chicago. Oh, hard to be peaceful in Chicago. On Thursday morning, following a brief illness. That's very sad. Bradley Singer, a representative for Springer, confirmed to EW. Jerry's ability to connect with people was at the heart of his success in everything he tried, whether that was politics, broadcasting, or just joking with people on the street who wanted a photo or a word. Gene Galvin, a lifelong friend and spokesman for the Springer family, said in a statement, "He's irreplaceable and the loss hurts immensely, but memories of his intellect, heart, and humor will live on." Springer is best known for his hosting of his dramatic syndicated talk show, The Jerry Springer Show, which ran from 1991 to 2018. The series saw Springer mediate contentious conflicts between couples, friends, and family members, which often culminated in physical altercations that had to be stopped by the show's security team. The salacious series, which received stellar ratings, memorably featured its audience members chanting "Jerry, Jerry, Jerry" upon the host's entrance each episode. Jerry was born on February 13th, 1944, in the London Underground's High State Station, which at the time had been converted into a bomb shelter mid-World War II. At age 4, he and his family immigrated to the United States and settled in the New York City borough of Queens while studying political science at Tulane University. Springer kickstarted his broadcast career by hosting his own segment at a local college radio station. He served as a political writer and commentator throughout his career and recently covered the 2016 presidential election for ITV's Good Morning Britain. Springer furthered his higher education by receiving a law degree from Northwestern University. In 1971, he began his political career at age 27 as a member of the Cincinnati City Council. He ended up resigning in 1974 due to very personal family considerations, but later admitted to soliciting sex workers and paying them in personal checks per the Cincinnati Enquirer. Springer won back his seat the following year and went on to eventually serve as the mayor of Cincinnati from 1977 until 1978. Throughout his political career, Springer also practiced law as a partner at the Grinker, Sudman, and Springer law firm from 1973 until 1986. His legal background would aim him in later hosting his own syndicated reality court show, Judge Jerry, from 2019 to 2022. It's hard to overstate Springer's impact on 90s pop culture. In 1998, he played a scandalous TV host named Jerry Farley in Ringmaster, a feature film built almost entirely around his talk show and persona. He also made cameos in numerous films like 1999's Austin Power, The Spy Who Shagged Me, the television show including Sabrina the Teenage Witch, The Simpsons, The X-Files. Springer's hosting credits also include dating game show Baggage, The Price is Right Live, and America's Got Talent. He also hosted his own podcast, the Jerry Springer Podcast, from 2015 to 2022. Singer and Springer's family is asking that in lieu of flowers, you consider following his spirit and make a donation or commit to an act of kindness to someone in need or a worthy advocacy organization. Quoting Springer's closing words for his talk show, he added, "He always said, take care of yourself and each other." That's sweet. That is sweet. Even though he got people to fight each other on stage. Good morning, y'all. It is good to see y'all here. Big DE, good morning. It is good morning, Duchess of Dutchness. You're in a different time zone. You're all the way over there. Blue Eyes, good morning. Ralph Rogers, good morning. Good to see you here. I like to help people too. Anyone need cannabis products? Lovely. Love you. Are you just giving them all for free? It's very kind of you. It's very kind of you. Let us check out the following story. So we kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday, but we were talking about how Montana was having all of these people enter their courthouse and talk about the transgender issues. And so now conservatives are kind of jumping on this and being like, well, if January 6th was an insurrection, I'll tell you what. Well, what do you call this? So GOP uses state capitol protests to redefine insurrection. I don't know if I agree with that title. I would have written it, GOP uses state capitol protest to continue with silly definition of insurrection that the Democrats redefined on January 6th. Is how I would have titled that. But that's just me. Here we go. Look at this lovely person, whatever gender they may be. Okay. Alrighty. Bloop. Silenced by her Republican colleagues, do I want to say her? Yeah, it'll be easier for me to say her because it's written as her. Silenced by her Republican colleagues, Montana State Rep. Zoe Zephyr, who is trans, looked up from the... Oh, and we also got asked to look into the Zoe Zephyr thing yesterday by, I forget who, but somebody I really like in our comments section, because even though they were conservative, they're concerned about the censorship. And I agree. I don't like Zoe. I don't like what Zoe stands for. I don't like a bunch of trans people protesting in the Capitol. That being said, I really don't like the fact that conservatives censored her. That also really upsets me. I don't think that's beneficial in the slightest. I think it is cowardice of the Republicans we should be allowing this person to speak their nonsense, silly thoughts, and then we should point out how those are nonsense, silly thoughts. We shouldn't silence the nonsense, silly thoughts, because that gives more credence to it. Anyway, silenced by her Republican colleagues, Montana State Rep. Zoe Zephyr looked up from the House floor to supporters in the galley shouting, "Let her speak," and thrust her microphone into the air, amplifying the sentiment the Democratic transgender lawmaker was... AP, why are you not letting me read the article? Okay, sorry. Lawmaker was forbidden from expressing. It was a brief moment of defiance and chaos while 7 people were arrested for trespassing. The boisterous demonstration was free of violence or damage. Yet later that day, a group of Republican lawmakers described it in darker tones, saying Zephyr's actions were responsible for encouraging an insurrection. It's the third time in the last 5 weeks, and one of at least 4 times this year, that Republicans have attempted to compare the destructive but nonviolent protests at state capitals to insurrections. I wonder why. It irks me because January 6th is only violent if you look at the police reaction to the protest, right? Because it was originally reported that 5 or 6 officers died, and one of them being Officer Sicknick. But we now know that Officer Sicknick was totally fine after the riots and that he didn't die until the following day of an unrelated cause, and that not a single officer died due to physical injury from the Capitol. However, we know of at least 2 people who were murdered by Capitol Police, one of them being Ashley Babbitt. So yes, I guess you consider January 6th violence if you're talking about the reaction to it. But anyway, so I would also consider really any attack on any state capitol to be an insurrection if January 6th was an insurrection. Okay, moving on. The tactic follows a pattern set over the past 2 years when the term has been misused to describe public demonstrations and even the 2020 election that put Democrat Joe Biden in the White House. It's a move experts say dismisses legitimate speech and downplays the deadly January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol by supporters of former President Donald Trump. Wow. I'm just going to read that again. It's a move experts. What experts? What flipping experts? Please name the experts. Say dismisses legitimate speech. What's the legitimate speech? And was the January 6th people who had legitimate concerns about the security, was that security of their election? Was that not legitimate speech to you? You didn't like that? Is that why you didn't let us talk about it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram? Because it wasn't legitimate enough speech for you? And so when we try to protest it, and then you just call us violent, despite the fact that y'all killed us. Okay. Legitimate downplays the deadly January 6, 2021 assault on the U.S. Capitol by supporters of the former President Donald Trump. Oh, that sentence. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Kimberly Cruesi and Allie Swenson, you dumbasses. Of course you'd be chicks. Ugh. Okay. Shortly after the United States House voted to impeach him for the incitement of an insurrection. Ugh. Okay. Ever since, many Republicans have attempted to turn the phrase on Democrats. They want to ring alarm bells, and they want to compare this to January 6th, said Andy Nelson, the Democrat Party chair in Missoula County, which includes Zephyr's district. There's absolutely no way you could compare what happened on Monday with the January 6th insurrection, even though they were identical. Whatever. Violence occurred that day. No violence occurred in the gallery of the Montana House. Wow, that's ridiculous. Once again, the protesters did not commit any violence on January 6th. It was the reaction to the protesters. So yeah, maybe no violence occurred on the Democrats on the Montana House because Republicans have more order in their house, because Republicans are able to maintain law and order without murdering people. But keep in mind, on January 6th, both Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of DC, Bowser, denied extra units to the Capitol to protect the Capitol, denied it, did not want people there because they wanted a kerfuffle, and then they wanted the officers who were there to get panicked and become violent so that they could say that it was a violent insurrection. However, it was not violent on behalf of the protesters. Oh, just irks me. Irksome! Okay. Breathe, Lauren. It's okay. This week's events in the Montana legislature drew comparisons to a similar demonstration in Tennessee. Republican legislative leaders there used insurrection to describe a protest on the House floor by 3 Democratic lawmakers who were calling for gun control legislation in the aftermath of a Nashville school shooting that killed 3 students and 3 staff. 2 of them chanted "Power to the People" through a megaphone and were expelled before local commissions reinstated them. As in Montana, their supporters were shouting from the gallery above, and the scene brought legislative proceedings to a halt. Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton condemns the Democratic lawmakers. What they did today was equivalent, at least equivalent, maybe worse depending on how you look at it, of doing an insurrection in the Capitol. Sexton, a Republican, told a conservative radio station on March 30th. He later clarified to reporters that he was talking just about the lawmakers and not the protesters who were at the Capitol. He has maintained that the Democratic lawmakers were trying to cause a riot. To Democrats, Republicans' reactions was seen as a way to distract discussion from the critical topic. They are trying to dismiss the integrity and sincerity of what all of these people are calling for, said the Tennessee Democratic Representative John Ray Clemens. They're dismissing what it is just to avoid the debate on the issue. Well, I have to disagree. The reason that they went to, on January 6th, the reason that they were protesting was because they thought the election was illegitimate and therefore the last resource was to protest. However, with what you guys were fighting for were gun legislation and trans issues, which are things that you debate over and vote over and write legislation over, and wasn't a in the moment pressing issue as to an immediate change of power. And therefore your protest to prevent the legislature from actually discussing it is way more dismissed. It seems like the Democratic actions are the only ones that are actually suppressing the speech by going to protest these issues, by having people scream through bullhorns. They are literally preventing the discussion on the House floor of Tennessee and Montana from discussing the legislation at hand. So I love how they twist everything. Legal experts say the term insurrection has a specific meaning, which is a violent uprising that targets government authority. So January 6th would not fall into that category then. That's how dictionaries described the 18th and 19th centuries when the term was added to the Constitution in the 14th Amendment, said Lawrence Tribe, a constitutional law professor at Harvard University. Protests at the Capitol in Montana and Tennessee didn't involve violence or any real attempts to dismantle or replace government. Neither did January 6th. So it's wrong to call them insurrections, Tribe said. Michael Gerhardt, a law professor at the University of Carolina, said insurrection understood as a coordinated attempt to overthrow the government. Once again, January 6th, if we were trying to overthrow the government, don't you think like any one of them would have maybe brought a weapon? Maybe. But everybody just came without, that entire group was just going to overthrow the government without weapons. Very cool, very PC. Anyway, nevertheless, conservative social media commentators and bloggers have used the word insurrection alongside videos of protesters at state capitals in an attempt to equate those demonstrations to the January 6th attack, when thousands of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol in an attempt to halt certification of a presidential vote and keep Trump in office. Some of the rioters sought out the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and shouted, "Hang Mike Pence," as they roamed the Capitol. Republicans use the term insurrection in these cases isn't just wrong, it's also strategic, says Yotam Ophir, a University of Buffalo communications professor who focuses on misinformation. Don't you think Democrats' use of insurrection on January 6th did just the same thing? Look at how you guys are treating this article. Repeating a loaded term over and over makes it lose meaning and power. You don't think? You don't say? You don't say. Don't you think that's kind of what the Republicans are trying to get at by calling everything an insurrection now, since you guys are going to call January 6th like the most deadly insurrection, completely negating like all of American Civil War and, basically the founding of America. But let's just... The term also serves two other purposes for Republicans, demonizing Democrats as violent and implying that the accusations against Trump supporters on January 6th were exaggerated. Oh, because they were. In Montana, one widely shared Twitter post falsely claimed transgender insurgents had seized the Capitol, while the right-wing website Breitbart calls the protest Democrats' second insurrection in as many months. The Montana Freedom Caucus, which issued the statement that included the insurrection description, also demanded Zephyr be disciplined. The group includes 21 Montana Republican lawmakers, or a little less than a third of the Republicans in the legislature. It was founded in January with the encouragement of the United States House Freedom Caucus member, Representative Matt Rosendale, a hardline Montana conservative who has backed Trump's false statements about fraud in the 2020 election. Oh my God. I highly recommend y'all watch 2,000 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza. There's so many different issues with the 2020 election, but I've interviewed people on it, so there's interviews about it as well. Okay. Brick Suit is a good interview if you want to check out issues with the 2020 election. Okay. Republican lawmakers eventually voted to bar Zephyr from participating on the House floor, focusing her vote remotely. Notably, Republicans largely avoided referencing insurrection when discussing the motion, but some did accuse Zephyr of attempting to incite violence and putting her colleagues at risk of harm. Yeah, I still disagree with silencing her, but I get it. If twice in 1 month she's getting violent, they're not violent, but getting protesters to come flood the house so that you guys can't have legitimate discussions, I could kind of see wanting to silence her from continuing to bring protesters into the building. That being said, I'm sure there's another way to keep her there and allow her to have her voice without completely silencing her. The Montana and Tennessee examples follow at least two other state house protests that prompted cries of insurrection from Republicans. Donald Trump Jr. incited insurrection in February in a tweet claiming transgender activists had taken over and occupied Oklahoma Capitol. But according to local news reports, hundreds of supporters of transgender rights who rallied against the gender-affirming care ban before the Republican-controlled legislature were led through metal detectors by law enforcement and protested peacefully, just like January 6th. Oh my God. You could watch on January 6th as the protesters were going through the lines, at airports, how they have those lines that you step over. On January 6th, they were going through the Disneyland lines. They were going through the metal detectors. They were escorted by police officers. Same exact thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. In Minnesota, some conservative commentators used the word insurrection earlier this month. As demonstrators gathered peacefully outside of the Senate chambers while lawmakers in the Democratic-controlled legislature debated contentious bills ranging from LGBTQ issues to abortion. There was no violence or damage. The rhetoric lines up with the refusal among many Republicans to acknowledge that January 6th attack was an assault on American democracy and the peaceful transfer of power. First of all, America is a republic. So there's that. My colleagues across the aisle have spent so much time trying to silence the minority party that anyone speaking up and amplifying their voice probably strikes them as an insurrectionist, even though it doesn't resemble anything like it, said Clevens, the Democratic lawmaker in Tennessee. It's like they had no understanding what Republicans went through in 2020. We had our elections completely changed with the mail-in and the COVID and all of that BS. And then we weren't even allowed to flipping talk about it on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Not allowed to talk about it. And then when we have a legitimate, peaceful protest, you shoot us. You shot and killed Ashley Babbitt. And then you have the audacity to call, when we point out that your protests are identical and that we actually treat your protesters nicer, you're like, well, there's no violence. You didn't kill any of us, so blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. I'm going crazy reading this article. Whew. Okay, we're almost done. We're almost done. We only have a paragraph. We're gonna make it. You're gonna make it, Lauren. No more giving me articles from, what is this? AP News. Screw AP News. Carusi reported from Nashville and Swenson from New York. Associated Press writers Katie Brownback in Atlanta, Steve Prosky in St. Paul, Minnesota, Sam Metz in Salt Lake City, and Gary Robinson in Raleigh, North Carolina contributed to this report. Well, all of you suck. Okay, I'm going to take a second. Oh, look at, sorry, I was gone for so long reading this. I didn't even get to address chat. Good morning, Trump. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry. I upset you. You didn't like me screaming. I could see that. Never donate to oh, well, okay. Good morning, Ruru. Okay. Yeah. Donate to whoever you want to donate to. Costa, keep it up, and also, okay. Alrighty. Good morning, y'all. Good morning, Amanda. Yes, this is what we're doing today. You saw me screaming at the walls, essentially. 2,000 Mules is morass stupidity, Lauren. Okay, so I have heard issues with 2,000 Mules. Some people discussing issues with it. I very much disagree. Having watched the film myself, I think it would be a statistic anomaly if the 2,000 Mules were not actually mules and just like mail carriers or accidental. You should definitely watch the film and then get back to me if you're going to have that opinion, and we could discuss it. Road trip to Rebels? Yes, let's road trip. Hey, Diane, good to see you. That avatar really cracks me up every time I see it. Okie doke. Good to see you. Oh, look at all the comments we got. Mass troll report. Boop, boop, boop. How's the market this year? Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Okie doke. So this one is about DeSantis Disney. If you, okay, I'm going to place it in chat really quick. So I kind of discussed earlier, I don't remember what day, but, so obviously in America, we have a First Amendment right. So like governors, any public official, they're not allowed to tell us what we can and cannot say in America. And they're not allowed to retaliate against companies for saying certain things. DeSantis is being accused of retaliating against Disney when he wrote the rights of parenting bill in Florida, which gives parents the rights to know about what their kids are being educated with, and making it so that teachers are not allowed to discuss sexual and sexual orientation topics with young children. The Democrats refer to this as the Don't Say Gay bill. Conservatives, including DeSantis's spokespeople, call it the anti-grooming bill in response. Anyway, Disney was against this bill, and after Disney was against this bill, DeSantis took there's a separate entity to Disney. It's a public, it's essentially Disney, but they're not allowed to be business. They're not allowed to be Disney technically. So there's like a governmental entity. I forget what it's called. Let's just call it Toaster because I see a toaster. So like this Toaster entity. It's technically separate from Disney and it is public. And so DeSantis is allowed to strip the rights of this public entity at any time. However, people are saying that it's technically Disney and he only stripped the rights from Toaster to retaliate against Disney, which would be a violation of the First Amendment. So that's kind of the situation. But DeSantis is saying, two separate companies, right? I didn't retaliate against Disney. In fact, I didn't do anything to Disney. I did something to Toaster. I took away the rights from Toaster. It's like, yeah, well, Toaster is. So that's where we're at. So let's read. DeSantis's tough words may come back to haunt him in Disney lawsuit, experts say. Okay. Now that we are year-long war of words between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Walt Disney Company has landed in the courts, the Republican leader may find his verbal barbs directed at the entertainment giant coming back to bite, the legal experts said. Disney on Wednesday sued DeSantis to prevent the state from ending the company's virtual autonomy in Central Florida, where it has its theme parks. And that's where technically they're wrong. Disney doesn't have autonomy. It kind of has autonomy because a second governmental entity, which is essentially Disney but is not allowed to be Disney, has autonomy and then gives Disney a bunch of rights. But they're okay, I've already explained it. It's fine. Moving on. The suit comes a year after the company criticized Florida law banning classroom discussion of sexuality and gender identity with young children, prompting DeSantis to repeatedly attack woke Disney. Disney said DeSantis' actions amounted to a targeting campaign of a government retaliation. The company's 73-page lawsuit is filled with blunt warnings from DeSantis' memoir, fundraising material, interviews, and announcements that the entertainment giant had crossed the line into the realm of politics and had to be reined in. Ken Paulson, a professor at Middle Tennessee State University, said Governor may come to regret his attacks on the company. Quote, there's a very good chance that he's going to pay for those in the court of law, said Paulson, the director of the school's Free Speech Center. DeSantis has called Disney's lawsuit a politically motivated attack and accused the company of lacking accountability. Governor's spokesman said on Wednesday that his office was unaware of any legal rights that allow the company to operate its own government or maintain special privileges, a reference to a decades-old district that is home to Disney World. So yeah, that district, once again, separate entity to Disney, but symbiotic, essentially owned by Disney. Legal experts said DeSantis may have sound policy reasons to reconstitute the authority formerly known as Reedy Creek Improvement District, not Toaster. It's not called Toaster. I couldn't remember the name. That's what it's called. It's called Reedy Creek Improvement District. It is a separate entity to Disney. It is the public entity which runs the grounds of Disney, separate to, but essentially owned by. But if Disney can show it is done as retaliation, the company has a strong case. So once again, Reedy Creek, DeSantis has every right to strip Reedy Creek of its powers. Reedy Creek was already given way too much authority and way too much power to begin with, way beyond what any other citizen or any other company had. And so Governor DeSantis was completely within his realm to take away Reedy Creek's rights, but he's not allowed to do anything in retaliation to the First Amendment. So if they can prove that he did this indirect retaliation, they're in problem. But technically, Disney's not allowed to own Reedy Creek, and that symbiotic relationship is kind of already. Okay, the fallout between Florida's biggest employer and its governor with presidential aspirations began last year. Pressured by its employees, Disney spoke out against Parental Rights in Education Act that banned the discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity for young students, dubbed by critics as the Don't Say Gay bill and dubbed by DeSantis as the anti-grooming bill. DeSantis hit back, marshaling the Republican legislature to eventually seize control from the company of the special districts that helped develop Disney World. Disney claims in its lawsuit that the state adopted a targeting campaign of government retaliation orchestrated at every step by Governor DeSantis as punishment for Disney's protected speech. The United States Supreme Court, in a 2010 case known as Citizens United, ruled that the government could not limit political speech of corporations and other entities under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. For Disney to prevail, a jury would have to find the connection between the company's comments and the changes to the development district renamed under DeSantis control as the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. So he took Reedy Creek and he changed it to Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, which he had every right to do because it was one political entity which he was in control of. So he could change that. That being said, y'all already know what I said. Okay, DeSantis may argue that the government has given the company special tax benefits over the years, and Florida is entitled to change that. True. But Leslie Kendrick, the director of the Center for the First Amendment at University of Virginia School of Law, said it will come down to reasons for the change. Kind of agree. First Amendment law would say that it is problematic if it is done because of the speaker's protected speech, the speaker in this case being Disney, Kendrick said. DeSantis's tough talk towards Disney is cited throughout the lawsuit, included 18 quotes referring to some form of woke Disney. The lawsuit, now, if you have been watching DeSantis talk about this, he has been walking on eggshells as to avoid saying we're stripping Disney's governmental Reedy Creek area of its rights because of their wanting to do the whole like he has been walking on eggshells. So he has been talking about how Disney is woke, and then usually separately he discusses the stripping of Disney's rights to try to separate them. But I did think it was a retaliatory thing, if I'm being honest, and I do like DeSantis. The lawsuit cites an opinion piece DeSantis wrote for the Wall Street Journal, in which he said when companies like Disney use their power to advance a woke agenda, leaders must fight back or they surrender the political battlefield to the militant left. Legal experts said examples of retaliation for political speech often involves state employees. One business example Kendrick cited involved a newspaper tax imposed on publications with a circulation of 20,000 in Louisiana in 1934, influenced by the state's powerful Senator Huey Long. The law was largely seen as punishing a student paper critical of the former governor, even though it impacted 13 publications, many of which sued. The lawsuit over the tax eventually made its way to the United States Supreme Court, which struck it down in a case known as Grosjean v. American Press Co. The justices said the tax was seen as a deliberate attempt to limit the spread of information, and it was suspicious the way law was developed. History and context really matters, Kendrick said. If there's evidence that you did it for reasons that implicate the First Amendment to punish the speaker, then we have a problem. Alrighty. So that's where we left off. Happy Hippie, good morning. Good to see you. McTrippy, it is good to see you. Rada's here. Vital's here. The whole party's here. Look at everybody here. Me? Did I try and fail? What did I try and fail? I bet I did. I've tried and failed at a lot of things in my life. Y'all have seen my acting reel, so I know you know I've tried and failed. Okay. Moving on. Let's check out. Okay. Yeah, I was talking to Henry about this morning. But then I cut him off mid-sentence because I realized it was 4 a.m. and it was time to start the show. But I was like, is BBC the same thing as NPR in terms of it being, state-controlled media? And then right before he could answer, it became 4 o'clock. So I don't know. I will find out at the end of the show. But he said this was a really big story. I believe him. You can't even see the headline because of that. Okay. BBC's Sharp, the director, quits after breaching rules over Boris Johnson loan. So this is like the head of the BBC. He says this is like, I asked, is this equivalent to the White House press secretary getting fired? And he said, kinda. So, and I got something in back chat. President Trump. Oh, Oh, we got two. Thank you. So when are we going to get married, cutie? Oh, appreciate that. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. I didn't even see two of them. You are the best. I really appreciate all of the support y'all give. President Trump, I really appreciate you. We are really trying. Before we actually go into the story, I just want to make a couple of announcements. We are really trying to make some really great content. We have plans to go to San Francisco in the future. We have plans to go to Santa Barbara. We have like things that we're going to investigate. We have shows that we're going to be on. We have things that we are doing. And so every dollar helps with like gas, with hotel, with stuff like that. So I just really appreciate you. You're the best, President Trump. Okay, moving on to the story. Oh yeah, and also please click like and subscribe. Thank you. BBC shark quits after breaching rules over Boris Johnson loan. BBC Chairman Richard Sharp resigned on Friday after an independent report found he breached rules by not disclosing a potential conflict of interest in his role in securing a $1 million loan for the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson. I know $1 million is a lot. That being said, is that a lot for politics? I guess it is. Okay. His exit amid the cronyism row comes at a time of heightened political scrutiny for the publicly funded British broadcaster's impartiality, a row with high-profile presenters Gary Lineker, over tweets criticizing government policy dominated national headlines last month. Sharp, a former Goldman Sachs banker and donor of the governing Conservative Party, was made chairman in 2021. But he has been under pressure since February when a committee of lawmakers said he had made significant errors of judgment in failing to declare his involvement in the loan. Sharp agreed to stay on until the end of June while the government searches for a replacement. While the government appoints the chairman of the BBC, the broadcaster's independence from the government is what helps make it a central presence in British cultural life. Interesting. So it's essentially our version of NPR, I think, if it's appointed by the government. Why do we have state-funded media? I think that's quite silly considering the entire purpose of media is to challenge the government. So if it's sponsored by the government, how good of a job is it going to do at that? Anyway, it is funded by a license fee paid by TV watching households. Well, it's kind of cool. So it's not like just your taxes. It's like from your TV fees, I guess. Only those who watch TV pay. The opposition Labour Party's culture spokeswoman, Lucy Powell, said the Conservative government's sleaze and cronyism has damaged the BBC's reputation, and a truly independent and robust process was needed to appoint Sharp's successor. Asked by reporters whether that replacement should be a non-political appointment, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who worked with Sharp at Goldman Sachs, said, "There's an established appointments process for all these things, and it will be right that we turn to that when the time is right. Questions about the BBC's neutrality are just one of the challenges it faces, along with trying to stay relevant to younger audiences who no longer watch live television, while also fighting threats to its funding from some lawmakers. The investigation, initiated the public appointment watchdog, examined the way in which Sharp was selected by government to chair the corporation. Specifically, it looked at whether Sharp fully disclosed details of his role in facilitating an £800,000 or $1 million loan for Boris Johnson before he was named chairman. The report found that while he breached the government's code for public appointments, that breach did not necessarily invalidate his appointment. Sharp said he believed the breach had been inadvertent and not material. But he also said staying until the end of his 4-year term would be a distraction from the broadcaster's good work. I have decided that it is right to prioritize the interest of the BBC, Sharp said in a statement. I have therefore this morning resigned as the BBC chair. The report mentions that Johnson's Downing Street office recommended Sharp as a strong candidate for the role, which attracted 23 applications. Sharp has maintained he was not involved in making a loan or arranging a guarantee or a financing, and he did no more than seek to introduce Canadian businessman Sam Blythe to a government official in late 2020. Andrew Heppenstall, who carried out the inquiry, said he was happy to record that he had seen no evidence of Sharp having a role in Johnson's private financial affairs aside from an attempted introduction. Interesting. Alrighty. Good morning, George. Good morning. Is there a ferret behind me? Little ferret. Little ferret. Good morning, y'all. So I thought that was interesting. The BBC guy got fired. Not fired. He resigned. And then we could get into the Trump accusations. I think that's somewhat interesting. I've been avoiding it. I just, I don't know. I don't like accusations that are that old. It's just hard to know it's accurate. And I always want to believe the woman because, you always want to have faith and not think that some lady lied about it. But, it's like decades and decades ago. It'd be so hard to recall 5 years ago, let it get low, decades ago. So let's get into it. Trump accuser tells jury he argued me whether I screamed or not. Eugene Carroll, a writer accusing Donald Trump of R-ing her in the mid-1990s, pushed back during cross-examination on Thursday, exclaiming, he argued me whether I screamed or not. Asked by Trump's lawyer why she did not scream during the alleged attack, Carroll said she was panicked and not a screamer by nature. People always ask, why didn't you scream? It keeps women silent. Carroll told lawyer Joe Tacopina on the third day of trial in her civil case against the former United States President, Manhattan federal judge. I do think it was probably a bad call to hire a male attorney for this case. I would have hired a female attorney for this case, but that's just me. Just because the look of cross-examinationing for a jury, and then you could always look sympathetic as a female on the stand. So, especially if you're being questioned by a male attorney, which is why I thought Johnny Depp's legal team is just brilliant. But anyway, she forcefully denied Tacopina's suggestion that she waited more than 2 decades to come forward about her encounter with Trump in Bagelford Goodman department store dressing room to sell more copies of her 2019 memoir. Carol, 79, said she felt compelled to go public after our allegations against Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein in 2017 prompted many other women to share their accounts of SA. It caused me to realize that staying silent doesn't work, Carol said. Woman after woman stood up. Carol said before her 6-man, 3-woman jury, I thought, well, this may be a way to change the culture of sexual violence. After dozens of questions from Tacopina about her failure to scream, dozens of questions. This is why female attorneys for these types of cases, you should not be peppering her with dozens of questions if not screaming loud enough. That's going to look terrible to a jury. Oh my God. You might be a good lawyer, but are you a good person? Are you going to be aware of how the jury is going to perceive you? Because that's half of lawyering. Okay. Carol lost patience and raised her voice. I'm telling you, he argued me whether I screamed or not, she said. That's exactly what you're avoiding. You're trying to avoid her screaming that. Jesus. Trump lawyer alleges money motive. Trump's legal team sought to undermine Carol's credibility after she testified in graphic detail on Wednesday that Trump, now 76, argued her in Bergdorf dressing room late 1995 and early 1996. Tacopina pressed Carol in her inability to remember exactly when the encounter happened and suggested she made up the story to generate publicity for her memoir, What Do We Need Men For? For 2 decades, Miss Carol, you never told the police and never revealed the story in your hundreds of columns, because she's a columnist. Carol acknowledged she did not immediately shower, see doctors, or call police, and confided only in her friends Lisa Birnbach and Carol Martin. She said feelings of shame or fear or retaliation often kept women from reporting R. Carol said she also feared Trump will use his wealth against her. One of the biggest fears absolutely came true. Carol said he has 2 tables of lawyers here today. Okay. That's somewhat irrelevant, but simultaneously not a good look. Like, don't give her anything to point to. You should cut whatever. Carol had testified on Wednesday that Trump, who had been shopping at Bergdorf for lingerie for another woman, coaxed her into a dressing room, slammed her into a wall, and argued her. Trump has consistently denied Carol's allegations and said she made them up to sell her memoir and hurt him politically, a theme Tacopina touched on. I would be curious, and this is the information, if I were Trump's attorney, I would have just she's an author. She's written hundreds of columns. I would bring in any time she ever mentioned Trump, and I guarantee you, I bet you that would have painted its own story, both before and after the incident. The 76-year-old Trump leads the Republican field in the 2024 presidential campaign. He has not attended the trial, and he is not required to be there. While Carol testified, Trump was in Manchester, New Hampshire, and at a campaign event. Carol, a registered Democrat, shocker, is seeking unspecified damages from Trump, saying his denials ruined her career and invited a flood of online harassment that persists. His denial, so he's not allowed to deny that he argued. He just has to acquiesce to your claims. Okay. She is suing Trump for battery under the Adult Survivor Act of 2022, New York state law letting adults who claim they were sexually abused sue their alleged attackers, even if statutes of limitations have run out. Look, I'm all for removing a statute of limitation for crimes such as like murder and R, but don't completely get rid, either get rid of the statute of limitations for those causes of action, but don't just be like, oh, statute of limitations has no meaning anymore. Now you could just, even if the statute has ran, you could just bring the suit whatever you want. So statute of limitations has no meaning anymore, essentially, is what you're saying. Okay, cool. Glad to know that they can just still bring a charge even if the statute of limbs has run. Just change it. Just get rid of the statute of limb. Don't make it so that people could still bring suits even after it expires. That's silly. Okay. Carol is also suing for defamation over the October 22 post by Trump on his Truth Social platform, where he called the rape a hoax and a scam and said Carol was not my type, and accused Carol of concocting a tale to sell her memoir. Okay, well, several things. being not his type is not something that you could sue him over in defamation. And then I think you're going to have a really difficult time saying that him denying the accusations that you thrust upon him is defamation. That is a stretch and a half if I ever heard one. Because defamation, so you would have to say that he published something that was untrue. He had the intent of negligence or malice, depending on whether or not you'd be considered a public figure. Oh gosh, why am I only remembering 2 of the 3 right now? I'm totally having a blank. But is that a not true statement? I mean, that is, you would have to also prove the truth of it. I don't know. You're going to have a tough time with it. You're going to have a tough time, especially with the malice or negligence. He's allowed to protect himself. I don't know. And then whether or not it was said as a fact, whether or not it was published, you're going to have an easy time showing that it was published. Okay. On Thursday, prior to the cross-examination, Carol finished being questioned by her lawyer, Michael Ferrara. She maintained that suing Trump was a means of getting my name back after being subjected to a wave of slime from Trump supporters, and denied she did it for publicity or revenge. I like attention, she said. I don't particularly like getting attention for suing Donald Trump. Getting attention for being Ard is hard. Tacopina is expected to continue cross-examining Carol when the trial resumes on Monday. The trial is expected to last 1 to 2 weeks. And that's another thing. If she really was Ard by him or by somebody that she recalls as him, that's horrible. And then to be accused of lying is horrible and horrific. And I really feel for her pain. That being said, the cause of action of defamation, is a stretch. Like you accused him of R, and now he's saying I didn't R you, and now you're claiming it's defamatory. He's not even really saying anything about you. He's just saying something about him. I guess you could say he's calling you a liar, but was that? I don't think that's going to meet the intent of negligence or malice, but whatever. Yeah, Burbarch, co-author of the official preppy handbook, and Martin, a former New York City news anchor, are expected to testify on Carol's behalf. Okay, that's where we're at. Thank you, Sheppy God. Appreciate you. Look at that. Law extending the statute of limitations in California is sunsetting. That's why Steven Tyler is jammed up now. I don't know anything about that. It is the same for the case in the NYC on Trump. Very interesting. Very interesting. I really don't like how that is being done. Oh, we got another one. It is not a crime. It's not for the crime. It's for the money civil case. Are you saying that because, the statute of limitations is not on the criminal aspect, the statute of limitations is on the civil aspect, and therefore it's different? Maybe that's what you're saying, and that is true. Like, I could see that being vastly different. Like, you're not potentially going to prison with the statute of limitations being changed. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the super chats. Okay. Shut the window. To the windows. I like Rebel. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it right here. I like Rebel, and he is more than welcome to be here. Boop boop boop. Okay, and last one. Oh yeah. Henry, I think, liked this one. We didn't get to talk about it, but I thought it was kind of funny. Henry, I'm sure, thinks it's funny too. This one is about a sperm donor. Sperm donor. Read this headline together, shall we? Shall we? Dutch court bans sperm donor who has fathered at least 550 children. I love how they waited for 550. They were like, that's the cutoff, not 500. Thank you, President Trump. Really appreciate it. Maybe they were like, oh, we should cut him off at 500. And they're like, maybe they're going to cut himself off at 500. Yeah, I bet he's going to cut himself off at 500. And then when he kept going to 50, they're like, okay, sir, you're cut off. No more kids for you. You'd hope that none of them would accidentally like meet each other and then date in the future if they don't know that they're siblings and junk. Ooh, that could be ugly. That could be real ugly. Okay, let's get into it. Look at this commercial. Alrighty. Malto meal sounds delicious. Dutch court on Friday banned a man from donating any more sperm after he fathered at least 550 children in the Netherlands and other countries and misled prospective parents about the number of offspring he helped to conceive. A judge at the Hague District Court ordered a halt in the injunction brought by the mother of a child conceived with the donor sperm and a foundation representing other parents. The mother, identified by the foundation only as Eva, welcomed the court's decision. I hope that this ruling leads to a ban on mass donation and spreads like an oil slick to other countries. We must stand hand in hand around our children and protect them against this injustice, she said in a statement. The court noted under Dutch guidelines, sperm donors are allowed to produce a maximum of 25 children with 12 mothers, and that the donor lied to prospective parents about his donation history. I have so many questions about this. One, like, why does he want to father so many people? Does he have his own kids that he's raised? Does he own? And then, like, is it weird that this just makes me think of biblical times? Like, oh, I just want to have as many kids as the stars in the sky. And it's like, why? Why, sir? But anyway, the donor, identified as Jonathan M. under the Dutch privacy guidelines, provided sperm to several Dutch fertility clinics and to a clinic in Denmark, as well as to many other people he connected with through advertisements and online forums, the court said in a written judgment. The doctor's lawyer said in a court hearing that he wanted to help parents. The donor, not the doctor. Jesus, I was going to say, this guy's a doctor? The donor's lawyer said at a court hearing that he wanted to help parents who would otherwise be unable to conceive. Well, he did that. He did that. A judge who heard the civil case said the donor deliberately lied about this in order to persuade the parents to take him as a donor, the court said in a statement. All these parents are now confronted with the fact that children and their family are part of a huge kinship network with hundreds of half-siblings, which they did not choose, the court said, adding that this has or could possibly have negative psychosocial consequences for the children. It is therefore in their interest to keep this kinship network is not extended any further. The court said in a statement that the case was about conflicting fundamental rights. On the one hand, the right to respect the privacy of the parents and the donor children, and on the other hand, the same right of the donor. The court ruled that the interest of the donor children and the parents outweigh the interest of the donor in continuing to donate sperm to new prospective parents. The court ordered him immediately to halt all donations and said he must pay 100,000 euros or $110,000 per case if he breaches the ban. Lawyer Mark DeHeck called the ruling a clear signal and, as far as I'm concerned, a final warning to other mass donors. Interesting. That is really interesting. I wonder if that would, hopefully none of them ever date or get married or nothing like that. Oh, that would just be messy. This guy has the opposite. Stop making me read bad comments. Okay, I'm not reading no more comments anymore. Y'all are getting me in trouble. Okay. Well, that was a great bunch of curated stories. So everybody thank Henry simultaneously. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Henry. Okay, good job, chat. Let's move on. Let's go over to ScanNN and check out those headlines. Okay, we get it. Prime TV. I want to read the headlines. I don't want to see this commercial. Okay. Why wasn't he caught earlier? Officials are trying to figure out how guardsman with multiple red flags in his past was granted top secret security clearance. I have no idea what this is referring to. Is this the guy who revealed all of this stuff about the Ukrainian war? I don't know. Let's check out this article. Yeah, this is accused Pentagon leakers' violent rhetoric raises fresh questions about top secret vetting process. Okay. I'm pretty sure I had top secret clearance at one point because just by entering the Air Force Academy. Pretty sure it wasn't that hard. You just go to on it. I'm pretty sure as soon as you're there, you basically have secret and then top secret clearance. It's like not a very high clearance. He was wasn't he like an E3? Pretty sure he was like an E3. Okay. New details about the 21-year-old Air National Guardsman accused of leaking a trove of classified documents online reveal how multiple red flags went unheeded and weren't enough to prevent the Pentagon from granting him top secret security clearance. Officials across the government are now scrambling to figure out why the United States government has spent years and vast sums of money overhauling the way it monitors people with access to government secrets, but that did not stop the Pentagon from granting top secret security clearance to Jack Teixeira, who prosecutors say has an arsenal of weapons at home and a history of violent online rhetoric. Okay, you're allowed to have weapons at home. In fact, one weird kid that I was at the Air Force Academy with was always with his stupid butterfly knives and shit. So you're allowed to have weapons. Okay. Teixeira had to fill out the extensive questionnaire known as the EQIP, AQIP, electronic questionnaires for investigations processing. I think I filled that out too. And be vetted by the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency before being granted his clearance in 2021, officials told CNN. But according to court documents filed by prosecutors on Wednesday, Teixeira was suspended from his high school only 3 years earlier when a classmate overheard him make remarks about weapons, including Molotov cocktails, guns at the school, and racial threats. Okay, that's a bad thing. Guns at the school, that's where you're like, maybe you shouldn't get a security clearance. Okay, there we go. I stand corrected. Like no. You guys know that song, right? It's a good song. Okay. The clear would have been a red flag. That clearly would have been a red flag, one Pentagon official told CNN. In an application for firearm identification card in 2020, Teixeira wrote that investigators vetting him for clearance were aware of the incident and that he'd given them the relevant police reports, school letters, and any or all documents that were submitted to the investigators that were generated from this event. Teixeira also applied for a firearm identification card in 2018 and 2019, both of which were denied over concerns by his local police department about the comments he had made at his school that led to his supervision, the prosecutor said, boggles the mind. That has left the United States officials probing what went wrong in the vetting process, wondering why those red flags were either overlooked or deemed insufficiently serious to prevent him from getting a clearance, and whether that was one-off or a wider, more systemic problem that needs to be overhauled. Probably a wider, more... Considering the number of weirdos I met in the military, it's probably a wider, more systemic problem. You guys... The fact that he turned over all of that evidence and was like, yep, I told some kid in my class that I wanted to bring weapons to school, and here's the police report, and here's all that, and here's all that. Can I join the military and have a secret clearance? And they were like, yes, sir. Welcome to serving Captain Sam, Mr. Sam, what's his name? Sam, whatever, Mr. America. And he was like, yay, and then God bless America. And it's like, okay, maybe not everybody should serve the country. I understand that we're kind of desperate for people right now, but maybe not the guy who wanted to bring guns to school. Okay. The Senate Intelligence Committee has twice in the last week asked, but then again, I like the guy. I like Jack Teixeira because from what I know about him, because I think that he should have, I think he's a whistleblower. I kind of think he's a hero. So anyway, the Senate Intelligence Committee has twice in the last week asked the Office of Director of National Intelligence and the Pentagon for more information about Teixeira's vetting. A committee aide told CNN, and the Air Force's Inspector General investigation is specifically examining the Pentagon's vetting process and whether any procedures were violated or ignored. Pentagon officials said probably not. That's the thing. They probably just saw this like school threat with a gun and was like, oh wow, it's America. And then, but it's not like, and then also these issues that they're bringing up are kind of not related to the issue. Jack is in trouble for embarrassing top brass of the military by exposing them as liars about the Ukrainian war. He's not in trouble for like shooting up a base, which would be what you would anticipate after he says he's going to shoot up a school and then he becomes a military person on military base. And that is an issue that we've had in the past where military members have turned the gun on their fellow servicemen after gaining access. But that's not what happened here. So this kind of seems irrelevant. Anyway, Pentagon Press Secretary Brigadier General Patrick Ryder told reporters on Thursday that when vetting someone for a security clearance, the adjudicator examines a sufficient period in someone's life to determine if they are eligible, if there was bad behavior during that period. Several factors are considered, including the seriousness of the conduct, the individual's age and maturity when it happened, whether any coercion occurred, and the likelihood of it happening again. Experts say the incident is an example of the Pentagon's continued failure to prevent extremists from joining its ranks. Yeah, you're asking people, hey, America, who in our population is like willing to kill other people to like defend the ideology of this country, which will be maintained by public officials, half of which you vehemently disagree with. And then you have to find a subsection of the population that's like, yeah, I'm okay with killing people. And then you're like, oh my God, we have so many extremists in this group. Yeah. Yes. What? Welcome to the military? Okay, Teixeira is a great example of how the Department of Defense has failed to figure out how to root out extremists, said Chris Goldsmith, an Army veteran and CEO of Task Force Butter, a nonprofit focused on combating extremism in the military. The fact that he was able to get a top secret security clearance after it became known to local police that he shouldn't even have a gun kind of boggles the mind, and it makes me wonder what kind of problems there are with the clearance system. According to court documents, when Teixeira applied again in 2020 for a firearm identification card, he cited his position in the military and his top secret clearance as reasons why he should be entrusted with the firearm. Prosecutors say when the FBI searched Texeria's room after arresting him earlier this month, they found multiple weapons, including handguns, bolt-action rifles, shotguns, and an AK-style high-capacity weapon, so a rifle. Okay. Another question facing investigators is how they could have caught Texeria's online postings, which included hundreds of classified documents and alleged comments about killing people sooner. Texeria allegedly made the post in a private chat room on social media platform Discord, something that the Pentagon can't monitor without an overhaul in privacy rules for service members. The Defense Department only learned about the leak on April 6, 4 months after prosecutors say Texeria began posting the documents on Discord. The New York Times has reported that Texeria began leaking documents in a public Discord chat room as early as February of 2022. Texeria also allegedly posted on Discord that he wanted to kill a F-ton of people because it would be cooling the weak-minded, and allegedly asked another user for advice on how to carry out a shooting in a crowded urban or suburban environment. Yikes! See, I want to like Texeria, but that comment is a little problematic. Maybe he meant it as a joke. I would love to see the context. It's not a funny joke. But a lot of the times people make really crass jokes when they think they're in private, especially about political issues. And being like, man, all these people of this one ideology that I disagree with, I want to wipe them out. Is that what Hitler did? Yes. Is it terrible? Should we not be doing that? We should not be doing that. Do people joke about it still and not mean it? Yes. So I would like to see the context. That being said, still a no-no. Okay, moving on. The leaker is being prosecuted, but what this has exposed is the need to re-examine our process. Why wasn't he caught earlier? Democratic Senator Mark Warner, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, told CNN, "Do so many people need to access these documents?" Warner asked the Senate Intelligence Committee, in a bipartisan way, is working on legislation to reform the classification process because he believes the United States government overclassifies information, leading to too many people having access to classified documents. Okay, let's just check Super Chat for a second. Lauren is the hottest right-winger. I'm not a conservative, though. Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I wonder what your political affiliation is. Please let me know in the comments what you are. Making sure I didn't miss no super chat. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all of the help this morning and the tea that y'all bought me. It's all about the power here. Maybe. I don't understand doxis. Maybe because my life is too precious to be investigating on a stranger that I can't care less, but it should definitely stop. Are you talking about doxing? I don't like doxing either. A lot of side chat going on. Appreciate it. I like it. I like the side chat. Y'all have your conversations in the morning as I read the news to you. Okay, there's a lot more to this story, but I'm gonna go on to a new story. I'm just gonna put this one in chat really quick. If y'all want it, it's on the ScamNN. Okay, doke. Let's head over to the next article. Let me share this so you can see the lovely headlines. Ooh. Okay, so we have Russia, Ukraine, body toll up to 16. That's no good. Okay. Oh, okay, let's read this one. Michigan 7th grader safely brings full school bus to a stop after driver loses consciousness. Are we going to see a video? Yes, we got a video. Okay, this is not like I was. Right?
It's your heart.
Is this my heart? I don't have a heart. Well, let's just wait for this commercial to play out. Here's Mark Swastika MD. No, Swastika. I really messed up that name. Ignore me. Mark Lee. I'm going to, I'm just going to shut up for a second. Okay, here's this kid.
Kids by taking charge after the driver passed out.
Someone call 911 now.
Wow. Dylan Reeves jumped in to steer and gently pumped the brakes to stop the bus, calmly told his classmates to call 911.
Huh? Pretty impressive. That's really impressive. Okay. A 7th grader in Michigan is being praised as a hero for preventing his school bus from crashing after his bus driver lost consciousness, according to a school official. Dylan Reeves, a student at Lewis E. Carter Middle School in Warren, took immediate action on a bus after school Wednesday afternoon in an extraordinary act of courage and maturity. Warren Consolidated School Superintendent Robert D. Livernois said the bus driver experienced some dizziness while driving and followed protocol by alerting home base that she wasn't feeling well and was going to pull over to allow transportation department to dispatch someone to provide relief to her, Livernois said on Thursday news conference. But the driver didn't make it to where she planned to park, eventually passed out and couldn't stop the bus, which started to veer onto oncoming traffic. He said. Reeves, who was seated about 5 rows back, jumped up from his seat, threw his backpack down, and ran to the front of the bus, grabbed the steering wheel, and brought the bus to a stop in the middle of the road. Even in the midst of the panic, Livernois said. In the video released by authorities at the news conference, Reeves is seen taking control of the steering wheel, slowly pushing the brakes, and then yelling to the other passengers, "Someone call 911 now. Someone should call 911. I don't care. Someone call 911. He had the wherewithal to push it slowly, like in anticipation that the bus was full of passengers. So despite the justifiable panic on the bus, you could imagine that this is probably a 66-passenger bus, and it was full at the time, Livernois said, adding there was no damage to the bus nor any of the surrounding property. That's really impressive. Warren police and fire departments responded to the scene within minutes and treated the bus driver according to the superintendent. All the students were loaded onto a different bus to make their way home, according to the letter from Livernois, the school to the school district. No injuries to the children on the bus were reported. Warren Fire Commissioner Skip Adams told CNN the bus driver, a 40-year-old woman, is stable but with precautions, and was transported to a hospital for examination. McAdams said the bus driver became alert and was able to communicate with first responders during her evaluation, treatment, and transport. She had no physical injuries and suffered a medical emergency owing to a loss of consciousness, the fire commissioner said. The driver, whose name shall not be released by authorities out of respect for her privacy, remains in the hospital and is still undergoing testing and observation. Livernois said she was described by Livernois, a new driver, having been with the district since last July. That's really sad because she didn't really do anything wrong. She had a medical issue. She's probably going to lose her job over this. Reeves' parents, Steve and Aretta Reeves, praised their son and called him our little hero. First off, we are very proud, very proud. I mean, this is overwhelming for all of us, Steve Reeves said at the news conference. Dylan, he's really been a great guy this year. He has come a long way. He has surprised us with great grades and with his performance at school, with friends, with peers. And to do something like this just fills my heart, makes my heart skip a beat, Loretta Reeves said. Warren is in southeastern Michigan, about 20 miles north of Detroit. Oh, that's a sweet story. Makes you want to tear up a little bit. Makes you kind of wonder why the parents weren't expecting good grades from him. Who were surprised to see the good grades? Why are you surprised, Mom and Dad? Okay, we only have a little bit more time left because we had so many great curated stories. So why don't we head away from scamming and head over to Foxy News, where they don't even have the foxiest of hosts anymore, Tucker Carlson. Very sad. Ooh. We read about this story earlier. I forgot when, last week, but I definitely want to get back into it. This is a really interesting, oh gosh, I forgot Fox has good music. Oh gosh. Okay, there we go. No, we talked about it a bit last week. We were talking about how this golfer, what happened? Oh, right. So he had AR'd several women like decades past. And then they decided to reopen some cold cases using the new DNA technology that they have. Using that DNA technology, they like created a family tree of the potential R person relating back to people from like the 1700s and the 1800s. And then like took those two people, narrowed it down to 3 brothers, and then took the DNA and then realized of the 3 brothers which one it was most likely to be. Then they found him at a golf course because he's an avid golfer, took a sip of coffee, threw away the coffee. They got the DNA off the coffee cup. And that's where we are. Okay. Accused Michigan golf course rapist was secret investor in Ohio strip clubs, sources say. Okay. Alleged golf course R person, Kurt Vrillema, a secret investor in 3 now shuttered Ohio strip clubs, was accused of assaulting an adult dancer, sources told Fox Digital News. He was like a kid in a candy store, said sources. He bragged that he was an owner to get sexual favors. The source said the suburban dad's hidden life included investments in Lacey's Playhouse, Kisses Showgirls, and Hush Showgirls in Toledo, all without his wife's knowledge. Vrillema, who has no prior criminal record, was arrested April 17 for a pair of 24-year-old cold cases after DNA from a discarded coffee cup linked him to the crimes. And let's go ahead and just display his face for a moment so y'all could see the terrible, terrible, nasty, nasty man who is him, and y'all could burn that into your memory holes and just look at that man with disgust for a moment with me. Yeah, nasty. Okay, let's continue. Around 2016, Rama allegedly attacked an adult dancer at Hush. He went into the back and ripped off her clothes. So the source, a former manager at the Gentlemen's Club, confirmed the incident. Yikes. The ex-manager told Fox News Digital that he warned the dancers about Vrillema, who allegedly tried to get the girls into a VIP room that was no longer used to have sex with him. He was very aggressive and would try to overpower them, the former manager recalls. The business executive in the construction industry, Relma, appeared to live a normal, affluent life as a married Michigan father of 3. Could you imagine, like, being married to this man, thinking that you had a loving partner and 3? Like, I'm so glad. My dad is just so prude. And so, like, he can't even sit through a tampon commercial. So and he stays at home, and he drove my sister and I to school, and he made us breakfast and lunch and dinner. Like, there's no way he lives a double life. I couldn't even imagine thinking that was like a possibility for my dad. Ugh. Okay. The family lives in a $2.2 million lakefront home in West Bloomfield and owns several investment properties, records show. Rolema served on the board of directors and as a parent volunteer at the Rochester Soccer Club, and was a member of the exclusive Orchard Lake County Club. The avid golfer played in amateur tournaments as far back as 2000 and teed off at fairways across the country. But his manicured life abruptly unraveled with the help of his genetic genealogy. An attempt at the Twin Lakes Golf Club, an employee at the Twin Lakes Golf Club was arred September 6, 1999 in an Oakland Charter Township after a man busted through an employee entrance and demanded that she take off her clothes. 9 months later, on July 27th, the same predator struck again. He approached a 19-year-old woman jogging near the 18th hole of the blue course at Penn State University and asked her for a Band-Aid, then requested directions to the clubhouse. When she tried to leave, he allegedly held a pocket knife to her throat and dragged her into the woods and told her to take off her shirt. The victim began to cry, and he allegedly punched her in the stomach and raped her, according to court papers. Investigators obtained DNA from rape kits performed on both women, and the profiles were uploaded to the combined DNA index system. But there were no hits, and the case is but cold. Investigators did learn in 2004 that the same suspect is behind both attacks. Yeah, if you don't really commit any crimes and you don't have a job that would require your DNA to be in the database, like for instance, I was a teacher for a little bit, and so they required that I get like my fingerprinting and my DNA and stuff to make sure that I wasn't like a cold case child abuser that had been undetected. But it's sad, if you avoid getting your DNA in the system, they're never going to find you until recently with the help of like 23andMe and stuff like that. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office and Penn State Police reached out to Parabon Nanolabs to conduct genetic genealogy testing from July 2021 as a last-ditch effort to try to solve the cold case. C.C. Moore, who is known as a DNA detective at Parabon, has helped law enforcement identify more than 250 suspects. Genetic genealogy is a lead generator. It's not evidence in a court of law. She said that the discipline combines genetic analysis of public record searches. Yeah, so you can't use it in a court of law to show that somebody is the perpetrator, but you can use it to figure out who the perpetrator was and then try to collect evidence. So for instance, in this case, they were able to determine two historical relatives and then figure out who it was likely to be. And then from there, they were able to collect DNA from the coffee cup, and that coffee cup is admissible in court. So they uploaded the DNA samples to GED Match, a DNA database with about 1.2 million profiles. Although 23andMe and Ancestry.com have more than 40 million profiles, they do not cooperate with law enforcement. Moore and a colleague spent more than 15 hours identifying real most distant relatives going back to the 1700s, then built a family tree that narrowed the potential suspects to him and his two brothers. We don't tell police who it is. She said, we provided information and they have to conduct their own investigation. More importantly, she noted police have to obtain a one-to-one DNA match, and that is the critical evidence that is admissible in court. So that in case, that would be the coffee cup. Law enforcement quickly zeroed in on Relma because he lived near the Twin Lakes Golf Club and his brother was attending Penn State at the time of the second R, according to the court papers. Authorities began surveilling Relma and obtained discarded coffee cup with a sample of his DNA earlier this year, which was a direct match to the samples from the R kits. Genetic genealogy is helping identify a new type of criminal, people who have committed terrible, very violent crimes that appear to be upstanding members of society. Moore told Fox Digital News. They have careers and are successful and are not the sort of people that law enforcement would usually suspect. Orchard Lake County Club's board unanimously voted to take swift, appropriate action and suspended Relma on Tuesday, according to the spokesperson. Centre County District Attorney Sean McGraw, whose office is prosecuting Penn State R case, said the message is clear. No matter how long ago it was, we will find you, we will arrest you, and we will prosecute you, he told Fox News Digital. In Michigan, Relma is charged with first and second-degree felony criminal sexual conduct and is being held without bond. In Pennsylvania, he faces felony counts of rape and sexual assault and aggravated indecent assault. He faces up to life in prison. His defense lawyer, Deanna Kelly, smart, he hired a woman, declined to comment on specifics of this article. A piece of evidence is only as good as its collection and analysis, and I don't know any of that yet, Kelly added. Every story has two sides, and he is looking forward to telling his side in court. Okay, alrighty. Yep, he does. He is innocent until proven guilty. We all know that, so it is what it is. So, yeah, we only have about 10 more minutes left, but I just want to thank y'all for being here. It's been a good show today because we got some good people in the comments. Yeah, that is right. Exactly. We will find you. Is this what the chat sounds like? Oh no, chat. Be a little bit nicer, y'all. Okay, first of all, my dad is not rich as fuck. My mommy is. Okay. Anyway, let's go back. Let's choose one more story here, shall we? Okay, here, let me share screen. So here are our options. We have Biden's new rule backfires on administration efforts to protect minorities. Ballooning AI-driven facial recognition industry sparks concern over bias and privacy. Senate Dems line up in favor of spiking Biden's Chinese solar handout. Is there a serial killer in Austin? Revelers give their hot take. I want to take it. Yeah, we're going to go with this one.
If you are type 2 and take metformin, well,
I am not that, but thank you. So this is what we're going to read. Look up Robert Kennedy's ABC. I did hear something about that. Is that what we want to end on instead of this thing? Okay, we'll do that. Robert Kennedy ABC interview. ABC News edits interviews with RFK Jr. to exclude vaccine remarks. Is this what you wanted, Denizen? Let me know in chat. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Is this the article that we wanted to be read? Get a goddamn job and stop begging, Cooch. Okay. I think that's your way of saying, yes, this is the correct article. ABC News edited an interview with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Thursday to exclude remarks the 2024 Democratic presidential candidate made about vaccines. During the interview, Kennedy spoke to ABC's News live anchor Lindsay Davis about his presidential campaign and said that while he considered President Joe Biden to be both a personal and family friend, Biden's approach to government and the Democratic Party was ultimately at odds with his own. Let me pop this back. Bop. I don't believe that we should be the party of war. I don't believe that we should be the party of Wall Street. I don't believe that we should let neocons dictate our foreign policy. And I don't believe in censorship, Kennedy said. And those are all values that are traditional Democratic Party values that this White House has departed from. Kennedy defended his appearances on conservative shows, arguing that no way can you overcome the polarization in America without talking to people on the other side. While the interview also briefly included the beginning of Kennedy's remarks about vaccines after he was asked about his prior comments suggesting vaccination was linked to autism, the topic was suddenly cut off and skipped to later questions about Kennedy's family. Davis confirmed in a disclaimer following the interview that the video had indeed been edited to exclude the majority of Kennedy's remarks on the subject. We should note that during our conversation, Kennedy made false claims about the COVID-19 vaccinations, she said. Data shows that this is a quote, data shows that the COVID-19 vaccine has prevented millions of hospitalizations and death from the disease. He also made misleading claims about the relationship between vaccination and autism. Research shows that vaccines and the ingredients used in the vaccines do not cause the little bit of autism, including multiple studies involving more than 1 million children in major medical associations like the American Academy of Pediatrics and the advocacy group of Autism Speaks. Then explain me. Explain me. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, I got a bit of autism. My mom was like super into vaccines. But beyond that, why even cut him off? Why not just allow him to make his misleading or false claims, and then you could point out what about his claims are false or misleading. And if he points to specific ingredients in the vaccine that he believes are harmful, you should either prove that those ingredients are A, not in the vaccine, or B, not harmful. But no, just censor him. That's a lot easier. We've used our editorial judgment in not including extended portions of the exchange in our interview, Davis revealed. A Fox News poll on Wednesday placed Kennedy as the second most popular 2024 Democratic presidential candidate after Biden. Actually, Kennedy doesn't seem like I'm obviously a conservative, but based off what he's saying here, he doesn't sound like a bad president. I wouldn't mind voting for Kennedy if for whatever reason we don't have a decent conservative candidate. The poll put some support for Biden at 62%, while support for Kennedy is at 19%. Why is Biden's support so high? Followed by Maureen Williamson at 9%. Okay. Well, that's all we have for that story. And we got another Sheppy God. Thank you so much. Data shows that money to pay all networks is from pharma. I know. It's been a long time. One of the first people that I interviewed on this show, and is the reason that I even met Henry, the producer, is because I interviewed Martin Shkreli, who knows so much about the incestual relationships between pharmaceutical companies and media in general. So maybe I should do another interview with him specifically on that topic. But honestly, right now I'm trying to get him on Law and Order. He said he would go against Taylor Lorenz. I don't even know how to begin to reach out to Taylor Lorenz, but wouldn't y'all love to see Martin Shkreli beat Taylor Lorenz on Law and Order? I would love to see that. There's no Trump Carlson 2024. I wouldn't mind that. Trump Carlson, I could see that. Yeah. So some just quick announcements for Lauren DeLaguna as we're wrapping up. A couple of things. Well, one, I'm going to start off with, I got this new microphone. I hope today's show was really enjoyable and that the audio was decent, because I finally have a microphone. And yesterday I also had this microphone, but I accidentally sat on StreamYard for this to be my speaker, and I continued to use the computer microphone because I'm so smart. But anyway, so there's that. And then also next week we are canceling the morning show. I'm sorry, don't get mad at me. But next week we are not doing the morning show. The reason we are not doing the morning show next week is because I'm doing a lot of traveling. I am going on a show on Tuesday with 4 million subscribers, tons of live audience. We're thinking about, we're juggling ideas right now about what to do for that live stream. So Henry was thinking about maybe him hosting an open panel where people would be able to come up and comment while he shows the live stream that I'm on in the background. So that could be fun. But I'm really excited for that. If you want to know what live stream I'm going on, members only have access to that knowledge right now. But I will let you guys know Tuesday morning, right before I go on the show, all about it. And don't have any other announcements. No, that's basically it. Morning show canceled for next week. Oh yeah, we have an episode of Law and Order on Wednesday with the Thorpe family. I'm pretty sure that's like tentatively scheduled. Denizen X is supposed to be Denizen. He's going to be the attorney for that, and I have prepped him this much. So I really need to give him a little bit more. I just tooted a little bit. Sorry if you heard that with my very good microphone. I'm not going to pull a swallow well and not admit it. So I don't know if that got caught. But anyway, Denizen X is going to be the attorney. I need to give him more information, but that should be really exciting. And yeah, and then I also have a Thursday chat with Grace Thorpe, and that should be it. If you have anything that you need Lauren DeLaguna to the show to look at, or any articles you want us to read for future Lauren in the Morning type shows, or anything you want us to know, please contact Henry the producer. Can we do a Q&A like right now? You can ask me a question right now. Oh, I'll try to answer it. How is the dog doing? Oh, he's sleeping right now, but he's a good little boy. He's doing a lot better. The scabs are healing. He's doing a lot better. Lauren, I hope you find your... Why are you using words I don't know? Purotorican. And now I feel dumb. Swedish Nepo baby prince, like the really Buffy vampire slayer. Okay. Purotorican. What does that? Purotor. Okay. What the heck? Oh, Puerto Rican. Am I reading Puerto Rican wrong? Oh, you're just saying Puerto Rican. I don't know why I read that wrong. Puerto Rican. Like someone from Puerto Rico. Why did I read that wrong? Oh my God. That was embarrassing. Lauren, I hope you find your Puerto Rican Swedish Nepo baby prince, like the really Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah, I cannot read. Congrats. Okay, I was busy. Can you start over after the sperm donor guide? No, but you can. Yeah, I know Puerto Rican. I couldn't read that I was. Okay. Yes. That was me. That was my fault. I was really struggling for a second. Okay, we're done. I've embarrassed myself enough for the day. Okay, y'all. Goodbye. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much, Sheepy God, for the donations. Love you all. Mwah, 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 mwah.